Whoa there, Space Cowboy. Brokeback Bebop is a podcast with explicit content intended only for mature bounty hunters. Listener discretion is advised. Listen to all 40 steamy sessions of the show right now by supporting Brokeback Bebop at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast.
I think it's time to blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay.
3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh, fuck. Let's jam.
Oh, so you didn't say the wrong thing on purpose. Hi, everybody. Welcome to yet another week of everyone's whatever Cowboy Bebop podcast. This is the Brokeback Bebop. I'm glad you've joined us. I'm glad you're here for another week to talk about this show as we're dwindling down to the last few episodes of the original run of the series. How does that feel that we've done it all already almost?
You know, the Bebop's been rode hard, and it certainly will be being put away very, very wet. But it's been a pleasant ride nonetheless. And we're only about halfway through our journey in the scope of versions of the show we're talking about. So, you know, really, we're just going to make a stop at everyone's favorite galactic gas station, fill up, or at least put the $23 we have between us in the gas tank, and sputter on through the endless expanse of the universe.
That is true. That very well said, I think. But we are getting near the end of the original series, and at least this point of the series, as I've been saying, it just feels like it's just chugging on into the expanse. It doesn't feel at all like the brakes are starting to be pressed down onto yet, does it? It feels like it's just chugging
Well, this
along.
fuck train has no brakes, Zach.
Well, this
you should
fuck
know
train,
that by
absolutely.
now.
Yeah. So how are you? What's going on? What's new?
I'm good. Just been working, and I have a show I want to talk about on this program, Zach. Actually, before that, fun Cowboy Bebop thing. So this is going to really speak to a specific niche market of the niche market that is listening to this.
That's what we do here.
You ever heard of DCI, Zach? Drum Corps International?
DCI.
It's like the highest level
Is
of
there an
marching
anime
band.
about it now?
I wish. Oh my god, that'd be great. The finals happen in Indianapolis every year. I didn't go, but my favorite band who won again this year, the Blue Devils, I was watching their show on YouTube before we started recording, and they did a big section of the intro for Cowboy Bebop. They did like the horn line and stuff in their championship winning show, which was pretty awesome. So I wanted to shout that out.
That'd be a really cool marching band song. I could totally see that.
Yeah, that was great.
How much did you cream? Did it catch you off guard when they started it? Did you cream?
Yeah, I made a mess because I'd only seen like little clips of the show, but not that one. So I was very excited. But I want to shout out, I'm watching what is probably the best show I'll watch all year. I'm a little late to the party on it, but have you heard of Arcane?
Kind of. Is it on Adult Swim?
It's on Netflix.
Then
it's a Netflix.
Maybe I'm confusing it with something. I've definitely heard the title, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Well, I don't play League of Legends, but I guess it's based on League of Legends somehow. I don't play that game, not in my
I used to be roommates with people
area.
who played League of Legends like all day, every day.
Yeah, I feel like if you play it, it's
seems
all
terrible.
You live your life in, and I don't want to get into that.
It seems awful.
Because I know I'll get sucked in. Yeah. But the show is fucking incredible,
I just don't have enough
Zach.
money for the Mountain Dew that would fuel such
that
a
you require.
lifestyle. Yeah.
You gotta inject it at some point. You start sipping it, you start rubbing it around your bum hole, and next thing you know, you're shooting up Code Red.
After a while, you don't feel anything. You're just rubbing it into your gums.
Yeah, you put it on your
gums.
Up
your butthole.
I do the do.
Yeah. Don't have time to drink. I'm playing a game with 13-year-olds from the Netherlands.
Yeah. But the show's really cool. Some of the most creative animation I've ever seen.
That's cool.
The same way Spider-Verse was a revolutionary animation, like in terms of a movie, and I've heard that the Mitchell Machines has some cool stuff. This
Really
is
good
like
movie.
that level of animation, but takes the creativity even higher because they're not bound by like being in a movie that people need to see. They kind of were very clearly given a lot of artistic freedom with like the animation style, and it's so cool. There was a fight that I like literally teared up, and not because I was super emotional about the fight, but because it was so incredible that I like was jaw dropped, like rewound it and immediately watched it again. So cool, really cool show.
And everyone in the Burger King was like, "Can you do this somewhere else?"
Yeah, they're like, "Can you please order?" No, let me just watch this fight.
You're standing in line, tearing up over animation. Like, so did you want like a frozen Fanta?
Yeah, I think it's only like 9 episodes. They're like 40 minutes each, but it's really, really, really good. Story's exciting.
Okay.
Yeah, but check it out. It also maybe the intro, like opening song for it is maybe the only Imagine Dragons song that I think I like.
You lost me.
I know.
You lost
I know.
me.
But it has Jid on it, and I really like Jid.
I don't know
He's a
what
rapper.
that means.
He's a hip hopper, and he's on the song. But it's really cool.
I feel like even if Breaking Bad had an Imagine Dragons song as the theme song, I wouldn't get past like 3 episodes because I can't listen to that every time.
You know, I am like the biggest Imagine Dragons hater you'll find, Zach, but that song's pretty catchy. Oh, the misery. Everybody wants to be my enemy.
That sounds about right. Oh man, anything else you want to talk about before we get into some cult, and before you let me scratch those grooves in your brain?
Oh, you go ahead and start scratching my
right.
grooves anytime you damn well please, Zach.
Today on the 24th episode of Brokeback Bebop, we're here to talk about the 23rd session of Cowboy Bebop. That episode is called Brain Scratch. This episode was storyboarded by Yoshiyuki Takei.
Oh, you fucked up. Get a clean read on that, why don't you?
It was directed also by Yoshiyuki Takei, and the episode was written by Keiko Nobumoto.
I always nod my head yes as Zach's pronouncing the names, just to let him know he's doing a good job.
I don't care. Yeah,
because
you're
doing a good job, buddy.
You're the authority on Japanese pronunciations.
Yeah. Correct.
In Japan, this episode originally aired April 3rd, 1999, and in the U.S. on November 12th, 2001. That part's not hard, though. I'm pretty sure about that part.
Keep going, buddy.
That's it. I'm done.
Well, let's all give a round of applause for Zach
Thank
today,
you.
everyone. Thanks
That's
for coming
nice.
out, showing your stuff.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
We'll call you. I'll have my people reach out to you.
What, is this an interview? Am I interviewing to perhaps get the position on this podcast?
Yeah, this is your 24th interview.
I've got 2 trivia questions for you this week.
I've got 4 for you.
Okay, well then why don't you go ahead and throw them at me? Not too hard.
What channel is the cult guy Landis originally broadcasting
Don't know.
from?
I asked a question like this too, and I paid attention to that one and wrote it down, but I don't know.
The
200
episode starts on channel 95.
Oh, it's the very first thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Your turn. Why don't you go again? Why don't you go?
What is the doctor?
No, go ahead, Zach. Ask your question next.
What's the doctor's bounty?
Ooh, that was my second question, but
Cool.
38 million.
Nice.
Good job. Why don't you ask your
Other one?
Your last one. Yeah.
Okay. What channel is Big Shot on?
That was my
Is that why
third
you
question.
told me to tell you?
277.
Okay.
I got one more question for you.
Great.
How old was the boy controlling Landis?
At time of episode, would he have been 16?
Ooh, you know what, Zach? I don't know when his birthday is.
Was it 2 years? I was thinking it was
2
3
years.
Yeah. But birthday.
But because I wrote down
Birthday.
13 instead of the correct answer 15, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Good job, Zach.
Well, I first
Well
thought,
done.
obviously 13. Thank you. And you as
My
well.
first thought is also always 13. Thank you. Well, now, boys and girls.
Speaking of 13, are you going to watch the Netflix original movie musical, 13 the Musical, based on a hit Broadway musical, 13 the Musical, which launched the careers of one Ariana Grande and Elizabeth Gillies?
I didn't know Elizabeth Gillies was in that, too.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was in a community production of it at age like 17, playing
Wow.
a 13-year-old footballer.
Nice.
It's because I was
position
much
you knew
bigger
very
than
well.
all the children that were in the play.
This guy looks like an athlete. Come here, you big lug.
It's because I
You
had a
like
solid 5 years on everybody else.
Sports. A sporty sports. A sporty sports.
Well, save it for when you watch it. Don't spoil it. It takes place
I didn't
in
know
Bill,
that was going to be a thing.
Uh-huh.
You know, Broadway news right now.
What?
Are you up to date on the Scamilton saga?
Oh,
the
absolutely.
very conservative church. Yeah.
Okay, so to catch people up that might not know, we'll talk.
Because did I talk about it on the main podcast?
I don't
last
think
week?
you mentioned it to me before I had seen anything about it, and then I started seeing some clips and stuff, and it really.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is that thing Steven was talking about, and it really piqued my interest. But it was after they had deleted the full video of the whole play. So why don't you catch people up to what happened?
So a conservative church in Texas that apparently has put on some top-tier productions before, such as a production of just regular Hamilton or something like that, was doing a production of Hamilton where they changed some of the lyrics to be very Christ-centric and talked about being homosexual, being a sin, and things like that. And they were performing it without permission. And it was a very
it's a
high
show
budget
that's on
production.
Broadway, so nobody has permission to perform
Nobody
it.
has permission.
Let alone perform it for free with major script changes.
Yeah, so they got called out on TikTok, and the last thing I saw, you probably have some more insight than I do about what's actually happening about it, but I saw Lin-Manuel Miranda posted a screenshot of a tweet that he tweeted that was a quote tweet, where he was quote tweeting somebody else's tweet saying that they were served a cease and desist or something, or they like going to court, or the lawyers were involved.
There's some weird things about it because they got the cease and desist, but they were allowed to perform the show one more time after the cease and desist.
Yeah,
which is
one
weird.
last time. Because of the song, they were like, "Please, can we do it one last time?" He's like, "I see what you did there. I wrote that. You can do it."
So, like,
Piragua. They were allowed to do it, but only if Lin-Manuel Miranda starred as Hamilton again,
as the Piragua guy.
Yeah.
So they did it one more time, and what was still on YouTube was like the sermon that the pastor did afterwards, in which he thanked the Hamilton people for understanding and giving them permission to continue their performance. And then lawyers got involved and stuff. I don't know. I just thought it was really silly watching the clips because obviously this church has a lot of money to practically recreate the sets and costumes from Hamilton.
Yeah, how did they get...
But they've done stuff like this before. They've done crucifixion plays starring Iron Man. They did a crucifixion play starring Simba.
I'd watch the shit out of that.
Out of them nailing Iron Man to a cross.
He tries to stop them with his like beams out of his hands, but the power of Christ compels him to just give it up.
So it was just fun to see all these clips because they had the money.
Starring
to put
Pepper
it on.
Potts as Mary Magdalene.
They did not have the talent. The best parts was there's the one part in the Schuyler Sisters song where they do the hey, you know, where they like all like harmonize together, and it was 3 girls who were all in a different key, and it was just awful. It had nothing to do with Jesus. Or there's the part where Eliza's going, and I'm not afraid, I know who I married. It was like, but I'm not afraid, my faith is in Jesus. If you would just accept him in your heart today.
That would be
and
enough.
At the end, when Hamilton's about to get shot, and he's like, "What is a legacy? It's remembering that Jesus died for me." Just really bad. Let's talk about Cowboy Bebop.
Let's do it. Well, before we dive too far into it, Zach, it's time for Denver, Colorado's favorite segment on the show. We're gonna find out. We're going to scratch Zach's brain and determinate. Shout out to Lemonade Mouth. You ever seen Lemonade Mouth, Zach?
I didn't see Lemonade Mouth, but I'm familiar with it. And Bridget Mendler.
Mendler.
And one of the awkward red-haired kids that they had.
The one from Zeke and Luther.
Sure, didn't watch that one.
It was not great.
I was not a Disney XD follower.
You were a Disney. Well, Disney XD had Naruto Shippuden on it, so I would occasionally catch some of the other shows.
Pair of Kings.
Oh, that was. Didn't Mitchell Musso get fired for being like a? Didn't he like drunk?
I don't think he got fired.
Driving?
I think he left because he was like, "What am I doing?"
He's like, "I'm an adult."
I was on Hannah Montana. Do you know who I am?
We're gonna find out.
Miley's voice as the scene transitions. You know, the scene would transition to be like, ooh, yeah. But sometimes it'd be happy and be like, yeah, yeah. And other times it'd be like, ooh, like sad.
That's incredible.
Do you remember?
I was not a
Molly,
big Hannah
you gotta
Montana the
take your
show
horse
fan.
back. Ooh, yeah. You know, that kind of thing.
But Billy Ray!
Roddy Ray, I believe. His name was something like that on the show.
They're all like really close, but not their actual names. Marley Cyrus.
When are we doing the Hannah Montana rewatch?
I'll do it. It'll just be a watch for me. I've never really watched the show.
I'm down.
I liked the music.
So that's all the time we've got, everybody, this week. I think we really told you everything you needed to know about Brain Scratch. I think this is one of our
you're about to
finest
tell us everything we
Cowboy-
know about Brain Scratch, Zach,
true.
because we're about to find out, did Zach comprehend the episode this week? Zach, we're going to dive into your psyche. We're going to transfer your consciousness to this podcast, and you're going to bear it all. You're going to lay down on the rock with nothing but your balls out, and you're going to tell us what happened this week.
Wait, nothing but my balls out? So, like, every part of me is covered except for the balls, which are out.
Well, you're laid bare, but the balls are the the statement piece. As you see, my calculator is once again open, Zach, which means you've got 20 seconds. It's time to rock and roll. Are you ready?
Okay, go. So there's this church in Texas that performed
Whoa.
Hamilton without the permission of Lin-Manuel Miranda. And
Yeah.
he made a real genuine face of surprise when I started that.
I was like, is this for real? Is he the timer? Who's going? Am I going? When I hear Zach say go, I get nervous. It's a trauma response.
Yeah, it's like I'm a child star mom, you know, and you have to be ready to perform at any time when I tell you to, and
It's true.
Triggered by
Bigger smile, bigger smile. All right, Zach, 20 seconds. Are you ready?
No.
All right, sounds like a plan, Stan. On go, as per the usual. 3, 2, 1, go.
So there's a creepy cult run by a mysterious doctor that tells you we can take your soul out of your body and put it into a machine so you can live forever. And hundreds of people are killing themselves over it, much like other cults. Jet and Spike go to figure out what's going on here, and meanwhile Faye has found herself stuck in the cult to get rid of her debt. The guy ends up being a computer for a 13-year-old kid, and yeah.
You know, I think you got it. You know, Zach, because you got the guy ended up being a computer, the 13-year-old kid will be omitted, as it normally is.
Even if it hadn't been, if that was the only information that you got from the episode, I think my beginning started strong, but then at a point I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think clearly the episode was too. I'm
Really?
going to give
You
you
think
a
so?
solid C+ for that one, Zach.
Sure.
C+ work.
Truly doesn't affect me one way or the other.
Well, it will be going on your permanent record.
I like the sound of that. Bigger smiles, bigger smiles.
Bigger, come
High
on.
kick, and off you go on stage.
Now, Zach, before we dive into the meat and potatoes or
Yes,
the
as we finish
circuits
the
and
podcast.
wires into this episode, what'd you think of it?
It's kind of a double-edged sword because I enjoyed the episode and there's only 4 episodes left, including this one. So I liked it. I like the weird cult vibes. I like the framing device of the different television channels telling the story. In fact, at the beginning of the episode, I almost thought for a second when I watched it for the first time that was just going to be the whole episode. We were going to be like told the story through different news outlets that were
Which would have been
reporting
kind of
it.
cool.
Which would have been kind of cool, but I don't think they could have gotten the culty vibes that they wanted out of that. And also, I think they could have done a lot more with the culty vibes. I did really like this episode, but I'm at that point where I'm ready to see some of the big stuff happening as we end the show.
Yeah.
And I feel like this episode had a lot of cool ideas, like Faye being trapped in the cult, and just didn't have enough time to go into what I thought was most interesting about the story.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think that the TV channel stuff is really cool and very different from what this show normally does. I think the episode starts really strong. I think it finishes on a really creepy, cool vibe. There's a lot of mystery that's pulled off pretty well in this episode, too. You don't know exactly what's going on. I mean, even when you find out that Blondus never lived,
going on, you still kind of don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you're like, wait, what? I do think that there's a bit of like a lull in this episode where I think they could have done something to either add to the mystery factor or something like that. But
yeah, why was there
overall,
not
it's a good
more
one.
of Faye's storyline? That's such a great
Yeah,
opportunity.
I think they could have filled that time with a lot more Faye and a lot less of the
Jed
walking
and Ed
in
pretending
silence.
to be related.
Yeah.
I just thought the Faye story is interesting, and it really is a great opportunity to show you the inner workings of the cult, which we don't really get to see a lot of in this episode. In fact, when they show you that Faye is there in the beginning of the episode, it's kind of a disconnect because it's just out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of a cool reveal, and you're like, oh, she must be like undercover. And then you're like, oh shit, no, she's really in this goddamn cult.
But I even had the thought of, because Faye looks a little bit different because she's all culted out, I almost had the thought of, is this a flashback and she used to be in this cult or something in that like gray period of her life that we don't know about? It had me confused a little bit. Of course, they clear that up pretty quickly, but the first sighting of Faye, I was like, oh, huh. What are they doing here?
Which is, I think, a plus for this episode, because it does make you ask a lot of questions as it's going on. Even if you, from the beginning, are like, okay, something's up with this Landis guy, you don't figure it out, really, I think, until later in the episode, what's going on. And
I
then it's
think
still
I still don't totally have it figured out. I get that it's... So, the kid that was in the accident... How did we get from kid in accident... who his like dreams are made I get lost to the sci-fi
Well, he's
stuff.
a hacker, Zach. When you're a hacker, you can
But
kind of
how
pretty
did
much
we
do
get
any sort of zany
that
thing.
to the huge cult? What's the organization?
Well, the
of this
hacker
cult?
man did the hackers to
I want you to
create
answer
that.
me seriously because I feel
I am answering you
Okay.
seriously.
You got
maybe
your
my
sexy voice
silly
on.
voice, but my serious trousers are firmly around my ankles, Zach. I think I don't understand the science behind him being in a coma, but I think because he's hooked up to some machine to maybe let him experience dreams, like maybe he's actually hooked up to one of those gaming things that he was able to hack the whole system.
Yeah.
But
Or
I
like
don't know how he was then able to
same
engineer
thing that the
putting his
gaming
stuff out
system
there.
has. Yeah.
Yeah. But then it seemed like he was distributing the gaming system, so I don't know if he was just like emailing someone, be like, hey, make these. I promise I'll pay you. You'll make your money back. He's like Nigerian princing people or something. I don't know. I feel like we need a behind the scenes.
I think this episode
director's
would have been
commentary.
a lot better if it was a two-parter.
Yeah,
like,
that'd be
a lot
cool.
better. I think there's a lot of stuff we don't know. I think it would have done a lot better to flesh out that character that's in the coma a little bit more, so we kind of see his motivation and also like literally what he's doing, how it's gotten to the big, how he gained the influence that he has.
Yeah,
in
there's
what
definitely
just
more
seems
than
like a
20
short
minutes
couple
worth of
years.
story
Yeah.
packed into this episode that we just don't get because there's other things happening. But I really wanted more of Faye's stuff there. I want more about how did
The whole
Landis come to
first
be.
half of the episode could have been a Faye jailbreak from the cult kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although what they're really trying to do is get the bounty for the doctor who's running the whole thing. I don't know. I feel like it didn't quite give me everything that I wanted. Even though it was good, I didn't mind what it gave me. One of the biggest problems with Cowboy Bebop isn't really a problem. It's really a good thing, is that most episodes leave me having wanted a little bit more than what I got because of all the cool concepts they introduced so quickly as if they're nothing.
Yeah. I do want to talk briefly, Zach. There's only a couple important things I wrote down. One that we talked about, we both liked the song that was playing when Ed was like searching online. That was a cool
Yeah, it
little
was
ditty.
fun. The piano.
But I want to talk about cult culture in Japan. So Japan, when it comes to religions, is largely either Buddhist. There's some Christianity, but not like a ton. A lot of like traditional,
Not a
older
hugely
religions
religious.
and things like that. Yeah. Well, a very spiritual country, but religion is a little bit different. You know, they don't normally go to like church every week or something like that. But there's a large cult presence in Japan, especially in the 90s. And I want to talk specifically about Shoko Asahara, who was the leader of this doomsday cult called Aum Shrinko, which means like ultimate truth or something like that. That was pretty infamous in Japan, and I think is the reason why a lot of anime from around this time and even today have cult storylines, because they kind of orchestrated this like gas attack in Tokyo that was like a pretty big thing, like 15
I think I've
people
heard
or something
about
like that died. Yeah, and they ended up executing the head of the cult and things like that. But there are over like 2,000 or something recognized cults in Japan that people join because, you know, they're looking for something. A lot of them are like ultimate truth or peace or like that kind of vibe.
Or
but they
even
bring a lot of
just
people
like
in.
some people, it's a comfort
Yeah.
to go to a person that's like, we will handle all of your finances, we will handle everything.
Yeah.
All you have to do is exist in this commune of people that will help you take and make everything that you need to survive. I think it's easy to be just like how, well, in some regards, that can be what religion is for people.
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
a way to. It's a way to sign a bunch of checks, you know what I mean? So, like, a lot of questions that you ask in your head, you can just kind of be like, okay, well, this is it, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. A cult
There's
can be
something nice
that,
about having an answer to a question that is pretty daunting. I think,
and a cult can be that to an extreme.
oh yeah,
Not just
especially
an
when
answer
it's
to a question, but like an answer to existing without having to,
yeah, and I think that there's something almost like the idea behind some of them is not bad at all. It's a group of people who want to be at peace and calm, and a lot of the Japanese cults at least are rooted in a lot of Buddhist beliefs and things like that, and not
It
all
all
of them
comes
are
down
harmful.
to the guy who's running it.
Yeah,
Usually.
right? Is he banging all the people and having a bunch of babies with them, or is he investing in Bitcoin and banging them and having a bunch of babies with them? It just depends, you never know.
That's really interesting. And to take it back into the episode, that was when we started the episode, one of the first things Lily said was this was going on a lot at the time. So this is kind of commenting on a pretty well-known issue of that time period. How do you think the episode does when it's in the future, but it's kind of reflecting something that's happening in the present at the time? How do you think the episode does? Do you think they make any good points?
And I think it does a pretty good job because these things grow very rapidly, and when they do, they don't necessarily receive a lot of negative attention. It's like a lot of people are joining this movement. It's a lot of positivity, but then when something bad starts happening in it, then the news turns to, oh, this is a bad thing. People are killing themselves because of this. I also think it's one of the earlier, not the first, but one of the earlier, like, put yourself in a video game type things, which now is very, very popular in anime as, like, a trope, especially, like, mid-2010s time. There were a bunch of anime that were, put your consciousness in a video game, then you get stuck in the video game. Oh, no.
That episode of Jimmy Neutron where they go into the Ultralord and Llama video games?
Yeah. And this was kind of pushing the earlier themes of that. Like I said, not the very first thing to have that, but one of the earlier times of putting your consciousness in a video game and getting stuck in there without your knowledge. I think it's a pretty creative physical device to get people, you have all these kids buying video games, then transferring their consciousness, because they're just clicking, yeah, I'll do it.
I think we'll see some of that in our lifetime. Not in so nefarious, but I think we'll see a lot more of consciousness and online existence mending even more. I like the point that you made about, I think the episode reflects it well, how near the beginning of the episode, Jet's like, well, this has been a problem for a long time, but now that a bunch of people are starting to kill themselves, now the police are paying attention to it.
Now
care. They're starting to do something about it. I think that moment, and also the moment near the end of the episode where, what's the doctor?
Landis.
That Landis is giving his speech about how it's all fake and it's all just taking advantage of the need that people have and filling that need for people. I think that pretty plainly puts what Cowboy Bebop, the show's stance, is on cults and maybe religion to an extent too. I think they do a good job of keeping the sci-fi future world of their show while also putting a couple quote-unquote truth bombs into it about the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. That hold really true today, especially, in the landscape that we're in with the fear-based media and things like that. Like, we're all very impressionable from what we have most of our intake from. I think as we live in a society,
there's
but,
so
like,
much
really,
information, and it's a great thing and it's a dangerous thing because it gets harder and harder to be able to decipher real from false because the line is blurry. No matter how hard you're trying to hear the right, it's really easy to read something and be like, oh wow, I guess this happened, and then no, that wasn't true at all, and you already got a whole like tirade about how this means. I don't know, it's a weird time.
No, totally, that happens a lot of time. Like if I see a convincing video where someone's saying something happened, like, okay, Leah Michelle can't read, I'm in.
But at the same time, it's a blessing because in moments like, around the election, when I'm thinking of when people were protesting at the White House or something and they got tear gassed.
Yeah.
Being in the information world we live in now makes it to where we can see, okay, those thousands of people that were out there, hundreds or thousands of them had their phone out recording. It doesn't matter what the official answer is of they peacefully deployed tactics because it got violent. We can see...
No, we saw videos.
Yeah. Right. Well, this was interesting. I wish we had gotten to spend a little bit more time on the episode. So before we go, is there anything as we dive into the last 3 episodes that we need to remember from this episode? Specifically, how are you feeling as we're getting closer to the end of the OG show?
I'm really excited. Zach, we've talked before about how this show ends with a bang and is really, really regarded as one of the best finales of not just an anime but just of any show. It's pretty high up there on a lot of lists. But I think this whole last 3 episode run in a show that doesn't normally tie up its loose ends, this show ties up its loose ends, which is really impressive and I think done in a very memorable way. So I'm excited to jump into it.
Before we do jump into it, let's talk about our captain of the Bebop for this week, for Brain Scratch.
All right. I'd like to go first, Zach.
Sure. Go ahead.
I want to give, and this is maybe not the first time giving it to this person or this being, but I'm going to give it to Ein. Ein's out here not only saving Jet from getting his mind stolen, but also as much as Ed was getting the credit for the beeps and the boops when Ein was in the game, Ed wasn't typing shit. That was Ein going through the menus doing the things, you know? So
that's
genius
true.
dog.
That's a good point.
Killing it. Yeah, so props to Ein this week, who's sometimes forgotten as only a hungry dog, but Ein was a true hero and lived up to his title as the world's smartest dog today.
I don't have a lot to say about my choice, but I'm going to go with Jet in this episode. I think it's a pretty good Jet leads the adventure episode without being a backstory episode. I like how interested he is in the issue and how no one's really listening to him about it, so he kind of goes on his own path with Ed. I'd say Ed is a runner-up. I think Ed has a really strong
Ed's great
episode
this
as
week
well.
too.
But Jet, that costume that he wears when he's pretending to be Ed's dad... Good stuff.
It was great.
Good look.
I love that Jet's not afraid of a costume. We got Sonar Jet last time. You know, he's not afraid to.
He's
to
not
step
exactly
into his
the gruff, stoic guy that he kind of appears to be that we thought. He's got a silly side, just like the rest of them do.
And him pretending Ed was his daughter was really cute.
Yeah. Well, anything you want to say to the people before we send them back off into space until next time?
The body is a construct. Send us your money, send us your hearts, and we'll send you enlightenment.
And while you're at it, send us your bones. If you're not going to need your body, you're definitely not going to need those
Definitely
bones.
don't need your bones.
Send
Put
us
them in a
them
box.
bones.
Send them to us.
Grind them
want
up in an
pics first.
envelope, send them full in a box, let our dogs
I will
chew
not
on 'em,
open
make
any
some
bones I did
gristle.
not receive a photograph of first. Wrap the box in wrapping paper made of printed photos of the bones so I know what I'm getting.
Yeah, document the bones.
Gotta document your bones.
Well, that's it. We'll see you all next week. It's been a lot of fun, and now we go off into that sweet nothingness of space.
Thanks for listening. Support this show and our podcast network at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast, where starting at $5 a month, you can get immediate access to all 40 outrageous sessions of Brokeback Bebop. See you next time, Space Cowboy.